Okay, good evening, everyone. We are getting ready to start the meeting, so at this time, I will be muting the public lines except for the times of our public portions.
To mute conference participants, press 1. To mute conference participants in lecture mode, all participants are muted and they can unmute themselves.
Mayor, I'd like to call to order the work session meeting of the Elmwood Park Mayor and Council for October 1st, 2020 to order at 7:03 p.m. On roll call, Council members Fasolo.
Here.
Golubek. Ingui. Here. Pellegrin. Here. Wechsler. Here. Council President Balistreri.
Here.
Mayor Coletti.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Thank you, Erin, and welcome to our meeting. Let's get started. Whereas Chapter 231 of the Public Laws of the State of New Jersey require at the commencement of every meeting a statement of compliance be read by the presiding officer. Now, therefore, be advised that that meeting requirement for this meeting have been met by publishing an annual notice in the Record and Herald News of Woodland Park and by posting such notice in the office of the Borough Clerk, as well as in a public place within the municipal building, and also by notifying interested citizens. Notice was posted on January 8th, 2020. Ladies and gentlemen, this meeting is being videotaped and will be available on the borough's website at www.elmwoodparknj.us. Erin.
Please note that due to precautionary measures to help prevent the spread of COVID-19, we have a conference call set up for the public to call as a means of participating in tonight's meeting. For the public's record and information, the public's lines will be muted except for when we open the meeting up for public hearing portions. We thank you in advance for your patience during the operation of tonight's meeting.
May I have a motion to open to public comment?
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Mr. Lenny, would you please open us up to the public?
To mute conference participants, press 1. To mute conference, all participants are muted and they can unmute themselves. To mute conference participants, press 1. To mute conference participants in lecture mode, press 2. To unmute conference participants, press 3. All participants are unmuted.
Good evening, everyone. At this time, any member of the public wishes to speak, please state your name and address for the record. For anyone who does not wish to speak, please mute your lines because there is quite a bit of background noise.
Anyone care to speak from the public? If not, I will close the public portion. Mr. Lenny?
To mute conference participants, press 1. All participants are muted and they can unmute themselves.
Okay, thank you, Mayor. First on the agenda this evening, we have our best practices survey review, and here with us is our CFO, Roy Rigatano. If he can come up to the dais and use the microphone so that the public can hear him. It's something that is done on an annual basis. That being said, the microphone's yours, Roy.
Good evening, everyone. The law requires, about 8 years ago, that the governor present questions to municipalities. In return, the CFO and the registered municipal clerk have to appear before the mayor and councils and basically describe or go over the inventory in which there were some no answers to 30 core questions. The other 20 are not scored. So in Elmwood Park, we had 4 no answers out of 30, and some of them we are already correcting, and some are basically it's up to the council if they want to put some of these measures in place. So on question 10, One of the questions is, do you have a social media policy? So I answered no, because we don't have a written policy on social media. Another question is, do you have on your RFQs, do you have on the resolutions not to exceed limits? We did not, and I could tell you, Erin and I already have it for December for next year. So when we do the RFQ process now, whether it be the auditor, the engineer, the attorneys, they all have to have in their RFQ a not to exceed amount. And I, as your CFO, have to give you for the 2021 budget, the line item that we're going to have to fund once we award those requests for qualifications for those disciplines. So that's relatively, it's been in the statute, but now it has to be upheld. Also, we don't have an anti-nepotism policy in place for Elmwood Park, so obviously I answered no on that question. And actually it was only 3 no's. The rest are non-scored, and some of the questions, very briefly, were we don't have shared services for me as your CFO, the collector, the clerk, and the assessor. So even though Kevin is part-time, we don't have a shared service with whatever town he is full-time at. So that's a question that, as you know, the governor is looking for more shared services. By the same token, we have many shared services in another question, so that was a yes. For instance, we have the we have the snow plowing with the county. We have county health services. And those were the 2 that stand out, and I'm sure there's many more, such as our ambulance service as well as our building department. We could go on. So we do practice shared services. Just another minute of your time. We do, unlike many towns, we do file our PERC. That's all of our contracts are filed with the state. We do have an up-to-date website. We have the 3 years adopted budgets on the site. And again, that's all because of Erin, what she does with the materials. Any questions?
What are they looking for? Social media practices, what are they looking for?
So what they're basically looking for is, like, for myself, I'm your CFO. So if I put something derogatory on the website, I basically could say that. Say something derogatory against the council, if you will, or someone who I have a disagreement with. So there should be some type of policies. Or if someone says something to me.
So question 10 says, does your municipality have an official social media account or accounts? And if so, which we do.
Oh, we
So
do.
we do have a Facebook account, but there's not a written policy for our social media account. We have a written policy for our employees if they use it in a derogatory way or in an inappropriate manner, but we don't have a written policy for how our borough Facebook account is managed as far as access, use, and permitted content.
So I have one for the police department, which is a model policy that I'll share and we'll convert over to the boroughs.
So I stand to be corrected. That is a yes answer, so we're down to 2 no's. So thank you.
Maybe if we keep talking, we'll get down to
I
0.
believe we have an employeeism policy.
I did, again, I asked about it, so
Yeah.
we do.
Yes.
Okay. So Mayor, we're going to get all of our state aid. That's the bottom line at the end of the day.
When?
So on a serious note, what happens is you have to have 16 affirmative answers out of 30. If you hit that 16 threshold amount, you'll get the entire amount of what's called the COMCHA, the Consolidated Municipal Tax Relief Aid. For here, it's roughly $2 million. I'm sorry, it's about $300,000. On the energy receipt tax, that's about $2 million. So because we will file this tomorrow or Monday, Erin and I, the state will want to see those affirmative answers, which we will upload on the quote FAST system, the software. And that's a good thing for the borough. We'll get our full allotment of our state aid.
Is it safe to say, Roy, that whatever the costs were for this pandemic, we're going to recoup pretty close to maximum?
Yes, with the CARES Act in place with the Bergen County, with the FEMA that we've already filed, we should, out-of-pocket expenses be whole. So the answer is yes.
It's my understanding that recently even the federal government has also dedicated funds for specific municipalities that will be triggered down from the state and the county level.
Well, that sounds good. Sounds very productive in any case. Any questions for our CFO?
Thank you, everyone.
That was Roy Rigatano, our CFO. And moving on, Erin?
Yes, moving on, next on our agenda, we are supposed to have our fire chief present his 5-year plan. So if we just give him a moment to join us.
Thanks for staying up late for us, Roy.
Welcome, gentlemen. How are you? Good.
And before Roy and I submit the best practices survey, I will submit a final copy via email to the mayor and council just so that they have it.
Is everybody ready?
You guys need to talk into that mic as loud as you can.
And as red, put it on, make sure it's red. Yep, push the button.
Perfect. So basically, I know typically in our 5-year plan, policies, procedures, and administrative items usually aren't discussed. But with everything that's going on right now and as of late, I think that's important to include in our plans. So basically, I'm going to read off of this letter that I gave everybody a copy of, and after I'm done reading, we could open the floor for any questions or concerns. All right. Mayor and Council, tonight, I, along with Assistant Chief Robert Bruce, would like to share with you all our vision for the Elmwood Park Volunteer Fire Department going forward and beyond 2020. It is no secret that 2020 has been a rough year, but rest assured we are getting back on track and you will see a stronger department in 2021. With all that said, I believe we have a solid plan and will outline our needs for the future. First, I'd like to start off with our policies and procedures, as well as our cooperation with the borough in attaining a level of accreditation and rolling out the Power DMS program. I am confident we will be successful with Assistant Chief Bruce and Fire Official Steve Kochek heading this committee. Our goal is to attain accreditation by the fourth quarter of 2021 and implement a new departmental training program as well. With all these actions, I hope to streamline our policies to align with the borough ordinances and utilize Power DMS to aid our officers to transfer information throughout our department. I would also like it to be known that we are working in conjunction with our fire official to lower our ISO rating from a 4 to a 3 by the end of 2021, and possibly even a 2 rating. A rating of 1, which is the best that can be attained, is a goal of ours by 2022. We have discussed several minor improvements and changes that could easily make that goal a reality. I will outline some of these changes later on in this letter. The next topic I'd like to touch on is apparatus and equipment. With the recent purchases of a new mini pumper as well as Engine 3 and Truck 4, we are in a good position as far as those pieces are concerned for the next 15 years. However, we will be forming committees to explore the purchase of new rigs for Engine 1 and Engine 2 within the next year. Engine 1 is a model year 2002, and Engine 2 is 2004. Let it be known that Engine 1 is still in great mechanical condition, but based off NFPA's new recommendation that frontline apparatus be replaced every 15 years, we need to start exploring a replacement. With that said, and in an effort to gain points towards a lower ISO rating, I am recommending that the borough retain the current Engine 1 as a spare that can be housed at Engine 1 in the spare bay. Realistically, we are looking at 2021 for replacing/ordering a new Engine 1 and 2023 for Engine 2. I'd like to mention that the cost to keep the current Engine 1 would only be approximately $3,000 to $4,000 per year based on required pump, ladder, and hose testings, as well as preventative maintenance. Once these pieces are replaced, the borough will be in good shape as far as apparatus is concerned for the next 10+ years. When the mayor and council and the department had an agreement to replace apparatus every 25 years, our annual call volume was below 200 calls per year. Our call total for last year was 545, with an additional 194 drills and activities. Though the replacement intervals have decreased, the outlined items will considerably decrease the amounts we spend on costly repairs and expenditures, and in the long run, save the borough money. As far as gear and equipment is concerned, with the purchase order I have submitted this year for 4 new sets of turnout gear, our department will be close to 90% compliance with NFPA standards, and with an additional purchase of approximately 5 sets next year, we will be 100% in compliance for at least the next 3 to 5 years, based off of the standard that requires replacement after 10 years in service. Additionally, a purchase of a deck gun monitor for our mini pumper will aid in our attempt to lower our ISO rating, as well as expand our firefighting abilities for that apparatus. Based off of increasing call volume, I'd also like to take this opportunity to inquire in an increase in our stipend payments that hasn't changed since 2017 when we introduced the program. I have also included literature from our fire official that includes call stats, statistics for our department from 2019 and the last 10 years as well. This information is for informational purposes to show a steady increase in our responses and call volume yearly. Thank you.
Mr. Havasta, just so I get a clarification on this, is this letter suggesting that we keep an additional fire truck?
Yes, sir.
And the upkeep on that and the maintenance factor, this is going to be additional to our cost spending regarding your department.
Correct. And like I outlined in the letter, just basic maintenance for the year, required testings and preventative maintenance is approximately $3,000 to $4,000, but retaining that apparatus would help in significantly lowering our ISO rating for our insurance.
No, I get all that, but there's a trade-off. Of course, we want the highest rating we can get, but on the same token, we want to be as frugal as possible in terms of spending taxpayers' dollars.
Understandable.
We're all in this town, we all live here, we have that as a common thread between us all. So it's something the council is going to have to look at. Other questions I have, you're talking about reducing the 25 years that we normally had in place as far as the shelf life of the machine. You want to drop that to 15 and 10?
That's NFPA.
Yeah, that's not us. That's NFPA that's setting that standard that they recommend every 15 years the apparatus be changed out.
Okay, they recommend.
Right. If I may, many months ago, when Mayor Mola sat down with the chiefs and said we need to extend this, it went from I believe it was 20 to 25 years.
I recall.
Right now, as we can all see with the expenditures we had with Truck 4 and what we have coming up with Engine 2, these rigs are not meant to go past 15, 20, 25 years. Truck 4, if memory serves, I think we're the past year and a half, close to almost $100,000 in repairs in a year and a half. The money that we're laying out for these apparatus it's just crazy. And
What's the cost to replace that item you're talking about?
if we replace Engine 1 with another Seagrave, we're probably looking at about $800,000.
Okay, and you're saying over just the last year alone on one engine, it cost 100,000?
Truck 4 was, if memory serves, I think just about $100,000.
Okay, now, were they items that don't go every day, and this replacement will give us another shelf life, say 10 years?
Well, if we could stretch it to 20 years, I think it's a possibility. But again, it all depends on our call volume too. When it was stretched out to 25 years, we were below 200 calls. Now we're running 750 calls. So, I mean, the amount of wear and tear that we have on the apparatus on a daily basis has increased, significantly. Even 10 years ago, 2010, I believe it was 259 calls. Last year, just basic calls alone was 549. So it's a combination of, they don't make them, just like anything else, they don't make them like they used to. They have all the computers, and it's not just nuts and bolts anymore with pumps. They have the computers, control units that are failing, and the call volume, or they're just
You know what's funny about that, what you just said, is that they don't make it like it used to, but yet we're going to go and buy it now.
Right, exactly.
That's, okay, I think that's an item that the council's going to have to consider.
Mayor, can I just add something?
Absolutely.
On keeping that extra engine one, if we
In the
would,
mic.
I'm sorry, if we would keep that, I think it would solve other issues as well. A lot of times we have engines that are out of service, and I believe that they could probably use that truck, correct me if I'm wrong, but if like engine 4, like how often it was out of, we could probably use that truck then to go to whatever firehouse would need, would be.
So large,
Correct.
right,
And
large-scale incidents. of
Believe me
like-
when I tell you, the members of Engine 1 have taken impeccable care of that engine over the last 20 years.
See, that would make sense to me, what you're saying, if that would push off the purchase of the new truck. Because now you have an extra piece there, and if one of the rigs do go down, it won't be as crucial. So there's a trade-off there too, that we got to discuss.
And with that, the way to get around keeping a older apparatus like that within NFPA standards is it's not classified as a frontline piece.
Right. And although Engine 1 is in great shape, she's not in the shape that she's a frontline. Engine 1 is centrally located. We go to all the calls in town. We have the manpower to do it. She goes everywhere. She goes to Patterson. She goes to Clifton on a regular basis. She's the frontline piece for Elmwood Park. At pushing 20 years old, it's not a frontline piece anymore. In a reserve status, where if we need it, we have a Markel, a large-scale incident, a rig goes down, Engine 2 goes out of service for 2 weeks. As a replacement piece or a reserve piece, it's perfect. But as a frontline piece, it just doesn't have the, reliability anymore.
Yeah, no, it's new versus old. Yes, you care to speak?
Last year with Markel, all our fire companies were all out here for how many days, and all the wear and tear on our fire trucks, took a lot of toll too, where it says $100,000 on a fire truck is a lot of money, but they worked very hard for Markels and everything else, so a lot of that wear and tear was from Markels.
Correct, and I could agree with Councilwoman Wetchler on that. Probably of the close to 100,000 mentioned in repairs for Company 4, if not 3/4, most of it was due to Markel from issues we had with freezing of our pumps and our computers, that they put a huge toll on all of our apparatus.
No, I get it, and I understand it. I've been around equipment my whole life. But there's also diminishing returns in terms of the tax burden. And you got to understand that that's the way we have to look at it too. Your safety is most important to us. That goes without saying. So we're not talking about the safety aspect. We're talking about the economics of this particular decision here.
Right. Well, we gave you the NFPA standards, so you'll be able to read through it and see what they say. And it is all about safety.
And to be honest with you, my point of view, their lives in this town could pay the extra $3,000 to $4,000. We could work it out somehow so that they're safe and our town is covered for, God forbid, any emergency that we have here. I'd rather spend the $3,000, $4,000 on something that we could have all the time, and they have their safety behind them.
We're talking about keeping the extra truck.
Yes.
And this is also, mind you, it's also going to cost Engine One, us, the membership money, because we're going to have to raise the roof of our firehouse, which isn't on you.
That was
it's
my
on us.
next question. Where are you going to
So-
store it?
We're going to store it in our old engine room. We have a renter there now. We're going to get rid of the renter, and we're going to raise the roof on our own dime, and we're going to house it there. So it does have a tremendous expense for us as well, but for the greater good of the town, we're willing to do that.
And to also touch on what Councilwoman Wetchler was saying about safety and technology, these apparatus being 2001 and 2004, the technologies and safety safeguards that they have today with the apparatus is far superior to the early 2000s when we bought these other two engines.
Okay. Any other questions from the council? Daniel, please.
Thank you guys for coming out tonight. I guess my first question is, and it's kind of like, we're talking about replacing possibly two trucks. We're talking 2023, 2024. Are we confident that we're going to have the manpower for 4 fire companies in 3 or 4 years?
Yes.
Okay.
Well, Engine One would be preferably ordered next year. It's a year build.
Right.
Come in when it turns 20.
Right. But you don't see a scenario where just the numbers aren't there to sustain 4 companies. You think we'll be good?
No, right now, Engine One has the depth, and Engine Two has plenty of depth. I think
Right.
they're up to 27 people on their roster.
Right. But, so let me put it this way. The company with the least, right, has a newer,
Correct. They got a new apparatus 2
Right.
years ago.
right. And I guess what I'm getting at is you don't see a scenario where that company with the least amount of membership gets to such a point that they're so low that they're no longer viable as a company. Because then you would have an extra truck in your fleet, right?
No, I don't see that
Okay.
happening.
Okay. Could you explain to me, like in a paragraph or two, what is ISO and what's the difference between you guys having a 4 and having a 1 for the fire department and for the town?
For the fire department, to be quite honest with you, it really doesn't mean much. It's basically for the taxpayers in the town. Lower ISO rating, better insurance rates are, and it has other, I'm sure, breaks for it as well. What we're doing on the administrative end, everything is going to meld together to lower our ISO rating. As the chief mentioned, Bobby, with doing the accreditation that we're going to attain and having the Power DMS and our new training programs and everything that we're going to implement next year is automatically going to lower our ISO rating for certain aspects, for training, for certifications and things of that nature. When it comes to
The sound system isn't picking up.
Okay. When it comes to other items like having the spare apparatus, not only is it going to provide additional fire protection for the town, it's also, everything is hand in hand. It's also going to lower our ISO rating as a reserve piece in the town. So if anything goes down, we have it. Large-scale incidents, we can use it, and it's there for our utilization.
In terms of the insurance costs, like if you went from 4 to 1 tomorrow, you don't know if the savings are tens of thousands or hundreds.
I wouldn't be able to tell you.
No, definitely not hundreds of thousands, but it's worthwhile, to say the least.
Yeah, I don't know
And-
the answer. I'm just asking.
Yeah, no,
And I
if
don't
I gave
expect
you an
to either.
answer, I'd be lying. But like Assistant Chief Bruce said, it does nothing for our department. It just helps you guys and the borough residents. But it's something that we see that we could make it small improvements to attain these better ratings. And as it stands, our department is already in the top 25%, correct, the top 25% of the entire state. So basically, over 75% of the state doesn't have as good of an ISO rating as we do, and we can make that even better.
And it will benefit us if there's a rig out of service going for maintenance.
Gentlemen, back to keeping the truck, the extra truck. So we're getting rid of this truck, and we're going to keep it as a backup, and the reason we're getting rid of the truck is because of the expense to keep the truck going.
Not the expense to keep the truck
No, sir.
going.
Based off of the updated NFPA standards, which if anybody's not aware, NFPA is the authority that governs all fire departments within this country.
There's no way.
Okay, so what's your point? What is that, what are you saying to me?
There's no way any frontline piece in this town or any town should be over 20 years old fighting a fire.
Okay, so now why are we taking this piece that falls in that category and as a backup piece with all the expense and the fact that it has been in terms of shelf life, decommissioned?
Because it's not a frontline piece, it's a reserve piece. It's in addition to. So it's not going out every day. It's not on the front line. It's not the first due apparatus. Engine 1 is the first due apparatus at 90% of the calls in this town. It's not the first due apparatus that my men are pulling lines off of and going into that fire.
Absolutely.
From what I understood that you said, the main reason for the $100,000 was because of all that happened at Markel. That was a different engine?
That's not Engine 1. No.
Okay.
Engine 1 is still in fairly good condition.
Okay.
It's a stainless steel body. It's a Seagrave. They're made, very well.
Yeah, Truck Company 4 and Engine 2, I mean, I'm not a mechanic, but you could put 2 and 2 together. They both took a beating at that Markel fire.
I think for safety reasons, like both of you said, and for backup, that if we ever have another big catastrophe in town, that we do have something available to get out there and save the building, save our, residents, whatever the need may be. I mean, $3,000 to $5,000 a year, I know that's a significant amount of money, but not when it comes to safety and saving life. So I agree with Councilwoman Wechsler that this is something we have to do to keep us all safe.
And again, we're not saying that Engine 1 is not safe now. We're just saying that it's not suitable for frontline after it reaches a certain age.
No, I understand that aspect. I just don't get the great advantage. I understand we had this fire that probably is once in a century. Hopefully, I'm right about that. And we always want to be equipped. But we have shared services with other towns that back us up. I think what you really have to do to convince me, at least, I don't know about the balance of the council, is you got to show a document on what the cost will be each year and spread it over how many years you plan on keeping this truck as far as maintenance goes.
Well, at the end of the day, the benefit of having a reserve piece is that, like I said, it's going to be approximately $3,000 to $5,000 a year for the annual PM, ladder testing, hose testing, and pump testing. Those are the things, the bare minimums that you have to do to keep a reserve piece in service.
Now, I'm talking about maintenance aspect.
That is maintenance.
No, I'm talking about a breakdown then.
But you're not letting me finish.
I'm sorry.
So, no worries. So if something major breaks, it throws a differential, the engine goes, the transmission goes. At that point, would I put $10,000 into that rig? No. At that point, you have to determine whether if something breaks, are we going to fix it or are we going to set it to pasture and just decommission?
Okay, to your point, at that point, what happens? Now, how many rigs do we have right now, total?
Engines?
Yeah.
3 engines, 1 ladder,
Okay, now we're going to end up with
1 mini pumper.
4 engines?
Rescues.
This is going to be an additional engine, correct?
Engine.
Okay, now, at that point, you're going to say, okay, we don't, it's not practical to maintain this vehicle any longer, and what are we going to do, replace that
No.
vehicle?
You just get rid of it.
So we're going back down to where we started?
Right.
Correct.
You could get 5 years, 10 years out of it. But again, as a reserve piece, you're not using it every day. It doesn't have the everyday wear and tear on it where it's not going to be going to 700 calls a year.
Yeah.
It may go to 4 or 5 calls a year.
Yeah. Once again, I've been around this rodeo of equipment my whole life, and every piece of equipment you have, whether it's sitting or running, is a maintenance factor. So that's the part that I'm not happy with
Okay.
in adding it. And once again, I can't see where we're going to gain that much in terms of safety by keeping this vehicle when we have shared services with other towns. So,
Mayor, can I,
The big difference is time. So if you have people hanging out of a window, that's where you have your issue.
I think the reserve equipment, the reserve truck conversation doesn't come up unless and until we buy a new engine. So we're like going to step 2, but step 1 is whether or not the engine is purchased and when it is purchased. So if the reserve truck conversation won't come up until then, and who knows, in 2 years, that may not be even a viable option, depending on what happens, right? But, so that's just my point. But I guess my comment is, the chiefs are asking for committees to study the issue, right? Committees to get the numbers together and put a proposal together
Right.
for the first one and the second one. I have no problem with that, and when that day comes and you have everything set, whoever the mayor and council is at that point will take everything into account and give the green light or give the pause button for a year or whatever. So I think what we could get out of tonight is, a green light for these committees to start and getting, getting all the facts and numbers together. And, at one point, it'll come judgment day or whatever, and, it'll be what it'll be at that point.
And like you mentioned, a lot of things, we're putting the cart before the horse. A lot of things could happen in a year and a half.
Correct, as long as it's an option that we can consider and not rule out.
We're
Yeah,
just
I
throwing
think-
it out
Just-
there as a,
Right. I think the reason it was brought up was because it's too good of a piece to get rid of, but it's not
Because
that bad that
basically
we
our
could use it
hands
as
are
a
tied
backup.
and
with those
based
other
off the standards,
trucks
we
being
have
out
to
of
replace
commission
it.
Sometimes it would be something that they can use in that regard.
Right.
But
Yeah.
again, we can wait and see. But
And I realize where Daniel wants to go and cut this discussion. My point is, if you have two cars in the household, are you going to keep the one that was breaking down and force you to go buy a new one or lease a new one as a reserve? That don't make too much sense to me.
Mayor, if I may, I think what this whole conversation is proving their point. While we debate here on buying a new truck or fixing the new truck we have, we need a truck to be on the road. So if the truck is down, we have a reserve. So while we're here debating back and forth on the $3,000 or the $5,000, we have a truck to use
It's
for
not
our,
three
for our
or four-
residents.
See, it's not three.
The annual maintenance, according to them, was $3,000 to
Right,
$5,000.
that's without considering any future breakdowns. And once that machine breaks down, like these gentlemen said, they're going to have to really think about throwing any more money into it.
Okay, but
This isn't a new machine that you're just putting on the side and going to get 100% response from it. This is a worn-out piece that is being pushed out the door, and now we're going to keep it and maintain it and absorb beyond the $3,000 or $4,000 the maintenance factors.
Okay, but you got to remember, it's for the safety of our fire department and our residents. There's always something, God forbid if this whole town started going down, that all 4 trucks were at the one fire and something else happened, they have an extra truck that God forbid they could take out and go take to the second fire. This is what we're here for. We're here for the residents of this town. It's not for us, it's for the town, the safety, and our fire department. And this is what we need to do.
Okay, you're saying it's for the town, then you have to consider the taxpayer and the burden you're putting on the taxpayer. All these little items, they mount up, and at the end of the year, you're raising taxes instead of going the opposite way.
Okay, so you know what, Mayor? Then we'll sit down when we have our budget and we'll start saying, all right, this department doesn't need this. This is $500 of that, $500. This department doesn't need this. This is $250. We can always work it out between $3,000 and $5,000 for our safety of our residents and our fire department.
It's not $3,000 or $5,000. That's a wrong
Can I-
statement.
Can I
Mayor, I
comment?
think anything we buy is not going to be a
We are-
definite amount to
we are-
maintain.
We are arguing over a moot point. They mentioned a potential that only will exist if we actually go ahead and buy a new engine, which we're not deciding to do tonight. We're giving, I hope, the blessing for them to research it and come up with all those facts and numbers. And when that day comes, in 2021, 2022, when they present it to the council, and the council says, yes, move ahead buying this engine, then at that point, we can have this whole debate about whether or not the borough should have a reserve piece of equipment. But this is like a complete waste of time right now, because we're not even going to remember this conversation when it actually is going to come up again in 2 years.
But also, Mayor, I don't think this is something we should definitely not be taking off the table. Let's see what happens when they do their research. But definitely, I agree, this should not come off the table. We could discuss this again once we get further along.
I'm open for that.
Mayor, why don't we poll our council right now, just to poll them and see how they all feel, just to see, and then we could start.
To Daniel's point, though, you can do it, I don't care. But to Daniel's point, it means nothing at this point. It's all pie in the sky.
Mayor, if I may, on the aspect of the engines, I think what the chiefs are looking for, or what I'm good with suggesting is giving them the green light to start this research, start this committee, get all the information and facts together, and the next time this will come up will be, I don't know, with the fire committee or whatever, but just to take the first step towards these things. Doesn't really commit us to anything, it just gets us moving in that direction.
Okay, is that what you wanted to poll? Yes. Erin, would you be so kind?
Just to make it easy, does anyone object to giving them the approval to establish these committees?
Absolutely not.
Okay, perfect. So they got the green light.
Mayor, I have another question on the proposal.
Yes.
You mentioned here a potential stipend increase. Do you have something in mind, or you just want it to potentially?
No, I don't have a number in mind. The only thing I have in mind is to somewhat restructure the way it's paid out, because me personally, you could give me 0 and I would be okay with it. That wouldn't stop me from doing my job. But there are people in this department, the officers, the captains, and the lieutenants that do so much work far beyond what the regular firefighters do, and I feel they deserve to be compensated more than the regular black hat firemen.
So just in response to you, I mean, I would suggest, you doing the work of putting some kind of proposal together, other than us just saying, okay, like, what do we think?
Okay, yeah,
We're
so
not gonna know.
basically, I just wanted to put that idea out that we are looking for an increase. And like I said, there's no specific number. We're not looking to break your bank, but just fair, something fair.
So just as a starting point, you're gonna have to come up with some kind of numbers. And
Okay.
we'll have the conversation, because I don't know, I don't know what you guys were thinking, you know what I mean? And to just piggyback off of that, aside from the captains and the officers piece that you just mentioned, and this just kind of came to my head, we have a lot of salaried people in the borough, a lot of stipends in the borough, and more or less everyone at a bare minimum gets a 2% increase. So I think that's something the council should discuss on the stipend end. I mean, they are essentially paid by the borough. So I think at a bare minimum, aside from whatever you have in mind, we probably should put them on a 2% growth rate every year with their program. So that's.
I could be in agreement with that. The only thing is I'm not going to ask for an extra $1,000 per person, for instance. That's insane. But if we, at this point, could increase, say, $50 to $100 per person starting next year, and then after that, potentially go on a 2% increase yearly, that's something that I think everybody would be happy with.
Well, like I said, start the process, and I think we can get to a point where we all agree.
Sounds like a plan. Thank you.
Anything else, gentlemen? We good on the council here as far as questions? Thank you.
Thank you. You're welcome.
Thank you, guys.
Ms. Delaney.
I'm just gonna get the speaker situated. Okay, at this time, I believe that we have Ali from Alimo Engineering on the line. Ali, if you can unmute yourself, as the next item on the agenda is the engineer's report. Hi, Ali. Before you go over your monthly status report, I do have a few items myself to go over in front of all of you. The first one being 3A, which is the proposal for design services for the Roth Street gutter repair. The project consists of replacing the existing concrete gutters in kind and location with an estimated construction cost of $101,500. So the design phase is estimated as at $8,500, construction phase at $6,000, for a grand total of their design services of $14,500.
Did this come up at the meeting I wasn't at?
Yeah, probably, yes.
So this did come up?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Basically, I took a drive there yesterday.
has this been discussed?
I think so. Aaron, has this been discussed? I don't remember.
No, I'm not looking for a fight. I just,
No, I'm just
if,
saying, I don't remember.
I just want to know what's going on,
I don't remember.
because,
Go ahead.
we're at that
It
level.
was,
So-
I think, briefly discussed the last time that they were here, so like a month ago.
So PSE&G did gas lines on that road. It's on their radar to repave. I don't know if they made the lateral connections yet. And Ali inspected the road and determined that a lot of the gutters there, which are the trough-type gutters, need to be replaced. So I told him to put the figures together and send it to the governing body. I don't recall if we discussed it or not, but that's the origin of this estimate.
And that, to that point, hold on a second. Hold on, Eileen. Hold on. To that point, with our procedure now, standard procedure, that curbs should be corrected when needed going forward, and that's where we're brought to at this point. And he's reporting back, letting us know that the curbs or the trough is in need of replacement, which I concur with him because I was there yesterday and visually saw it.
So I guess as a this is not my expertise. Can you tell us in like a paragraph or two what exactly is the problem and what the proposed solution is?
Yes. So essentially, like they was described, this is based off of our intention to do any kind of curbing before streets are paved. And in this situation, it's slightly different than normal curb, but due to the condition of the curb, the majority of it is in the same condition throughout, which is heavily cracked and damaged. Once the road gets paved, it would definitely be very much more difficult, even more than regular curb, to replace. And based on the fact that we found it necessary to replace all other gutters in the surrounding area, because there's multiple streets in the area that have the exact same problem. For that reason, we thought it would be necessary to replace the full amount of it now as opposed to later, for both structural purposes as well as drainage purposes. And like I said, it does fall under the category of curbing that we need to do before PSE&G paves.
Daniel? All right.
I'm sorry, I do have another question. So we would bid out just this job on its own, and would there be any benefit to doing this type of thing with the whole idea of fixing the bad areas in town? Because it's a small job. That's my
No,
own.
we have other jobs going on that are going to require additional curbing.
Where?
Ali, we have other streets that are being paved now and in the near future that are going to require curbing, correct?
Correct. So there would be more proposals following up, because obviously PSE&G has multiple streets they plan to pave, and we are going about inspecting each to make sure that the curbing needs to be replaced. This circumstance is slightly particular because it's not regular curb. Normally, curb can be done piece by piece where it is bad, and at the same time, it's actually significantly cheaper. So we could technically do this as a very large-scale project of curb throughout, and simply include it in that. But it is slightly different in terms of what is being involved. So if you wanted to, say, get a linear footage of curb all throughout the streets, and you wanted to give it to a contractor, hey, give us a price per linear foot based on, say, I don't know, 20,000 feet of curb. Obviously, it's not 20,000, you get the idea. This would not be applicable because it's a different curb. It's constructed a different way. On general, it's probably about, on average, twice as much as regular curb would be to replace. So that's why it might be better to have it separate. You could still include it in one project, but this one, it was also particular because I believe there was a petition that was put together in regards to the street, and we wanted to make sure that the residents knew that we were taking their concerns and their wants seriously, and that we were trying to get this street done to help them, or not to help them, as per our own requirements.
So I guess my question is, the type of kind of companies, contractors that do what you're proposing here, they also do traditional curbs, I would imagine, right? So again, PSE&G is going to be doing a lot of paving in the near future. I don't understand why we're not identifying all those streets and seeing which streets are going to conform to our borough ordinance that require us to replace the curbs, as you said, and then just bidding it as one big project. I would think that would be more cost effective. And I mean, we've had things we've bid that are low numbers that we don't even get a single bidder on. So I don't know, I'm just curious, why don't we identify every PSE&G street, make a LIMO, identify every curb on those streets, package it all together, and go from there? That's my question.
We can do that. That's definitely, there's no restriction to why we can't do that.
No, it can't hurt because we're talking bulk, and to Daniel's point, the curbing contractor is probably the same as the trough contractor. So that volume might save us a few dollars per running foot.
Yeah. And Mayor, I mean, we're in October 1st. Like, this isn't going to get done till the spring anyway. So if we got all our numbers together and put this out to bid in, or whatever, January, February, you'd be in the same spot as if you did this standalone.
Agreed.
So I guess we should give direction to Ali and Alimo to spend some time going to the PSE&G streets that will get paving and identifying which curbs will conform to the ordinance and have to be replaced, and then come back to the council with a report in a month or two.
Right. Now, to your point, going forward, we're going to need to appropriate X amount of dollars for the drainage problem, which is about $170,000, and this Roth Street, which was supposed to be done in this last period of paving. So what we're going to need to do is come up with a number, what we want to spend, and stick to that ceiling on that number, give or take. To your point.
I mean, we could do that, but we could also see, start from the top. Have a LIMO look at everything and say, hey, PSE&G's paving, based on your ordinance, these are the ones that you would have to do. Here's the cost. And then if it's something that's wacky, then we need to talk. I mean, listen, we've paved upwards of $1.2 million all the way down to 400. So I guess $1.2 million would be the reasonable limit, but I have no idea what they're going to come up with. It's, no idea.
Well, if you give them a license to go throughout the whole town, the number's going to be large.
Well, but Mayor, to your point, we have a very specific ordinance that if 30% of the curb is cracked or whatever the number is, and the street's being paved, the town must replace the curb. So there's no license. They're following the letter of our ordinance and telling us what it would cost to follow your ordinance.
I'm just saying there might be some wasted motion here, because if we got a $300,000 cap and we got $170,000 we just spent on drainage correction, we only have $130,000 left. Meanwhile, you're going to send them out there to compile information that won't get used for maybe 2 or 3 years. If he's willing to do that, fine with me.
Chief, correct me if I'm wrong, PSE&G will be paving in 2021 all the roads they've ripped up until this point.
That's correct.
So this paving will happen, and if we're going to conform to our ordinance, then Alimo needs to do the research and get the numbers for it. Because if we get into a situation that a street gets paved and the curb didn't get fixed, you're going to be upset again. So I'm trying to avoid that situation. But
Try not to upset me?
do as you please, Mayor. I think what I'm suggesting is reasonable.
I'm okay.
So can I make a suggestion, Mayor? I have a meeting, and you'll be there with Ali on Monday. We can get a little bit more formal plan in place on Monday and have him report back of his findings, and then we could present that to the council.
Okay.
So just a heads up, I sent an email out today. PSE&G did reach out. They're in the planning phase for 2021 before the 2021 activities begin. They want to know what municipal projects we have in planned. So, through their GIS system, they gave us an access portal. We need to input all of our plans by December 15th. So just keeping that in mind so that they can plan their 2021 accordingly.
Okay. Now, Daniel, as far as working out, which you did a marvelous job with, the curb to curb and the trade-off with PS&G. Where are we short right now with roads that should be paved on our dime?
So Chief, they're not paving anymore this year, correct?
I don't believe they are. Ali, correct me if I'm wrong, they're going to pick paving up in the spring, correct?
That is correct. They said there's no more paving to be done this year and anything will be done next year.
Yeah, so Mayor, when we got word that they were paving out in the Gantner section of town, we did all the credit swaps and everything, they notify us. So we haven't gone through the effort of doing the swaps for this part because it's not going to happen until the spring. So that's still all in flux.
Okay.
In a winter could change the street conditions.
I'm sorry, Ali, could you say that again?
I said, which is a good idea because the winter could change street conditions as far as street swapping, like it could play a factor when we actually decide what we're swapping and whatnot.
Yeah. My concerns are where that road has been opened by public service, you got a trench there that, number one, will be sinking, and from what I understand, they have to maintain it, even though we work this swap. Is that correct? The road that did not get paved, the half road, there's an open trench there now. Do they have to maintain that trench until we come along and pave it?
No, I mean, they leave it as is.
Are you asking me?
No, I'm asking Daniel.
When we tell them don't pave and don't worry about it, they patch it up like to their standards, and they say, okay, well, it's your problem now. You chose not to have this part of the road because you wanted credits, so
Okay,
we
so
deal with it.
that's where we have to focus then, is on those roads that did not get paved in its entirety. That should be our concern going forward, to finish them roads off.
Yeah, in future borough paving programs, yes.
Okay.
Okay, so we will hold off on that agenda item, moving on to 3B. We have current estimate number 1 for Tuella Avenue water main improvements, which is through John Garcia. The total amount due for estimate number 1 is $486,562.18. So with your consent, it will be placed on the agenda as it was recommended by LIMO to be paid.
Any questions on this item, council? No? We're good? Moving along.
Okay, 3C is change order number 2 and final for our 2019 road program with D&L Paving.
Ali, regarding these change order numbers and final payments, have you inspected it, and are you accepting the job and signing off on it?
Yes and no.
Yes and no.
We're accepting the bulk of it. There is one still. There's two things actually. One, gutter cleanout, which shouldn't be an issue, and there's one ramp that they have agreed to complete. They have agreed to redo because we found that it settled. Me and Scott Cars, the DP, have found it is settled. In which case, we have been going back and forth. But essentially, we said, we told them, if you don't fix it, we're going to pull the money necessary to fix it. We'll get another contractor to do it. They agreed to do that. So, in the interest of not, delaying a project further, they agreed to take care of it in a timely manner. And in which case, obviously, we would withhold payment until they do finish. But at this point, they wouldn't have to. Wait another month to close out a project. So, those are really the last two items, and that is where we stand right now with that project.
Okay, so you're on it, is what you're saying.
Yes.
So Ali, I just want to, because this isn't the usual format that you send over, but the amount that you're now recommending to be paid is the $235,583?
I believe, yes, that should be correct.
96? Okay.
Yes.
All right, thank you. Is everyone okay with doing so?
Council? Okay.
All right. Next item on the agenda, We have an invoice from IDA Site Work in regards to Rosemont Park's basketball court, which states that there's a balance due of $22,600.
Michael, this was, or I should, maybe even Ollie, this was the repaving of that court?
Yeah, so there was some confusion before. This is not the repaving. This is for Rosemont. The old court was demolished and relocated. It's in the same park, but to a different location, to a half court. So that is what this payment is. The one previously was for Cherry Hill parking lot, just so people are not confused. The same contractor. It was the old one was demolished. This is a brand new court, not resurfaced, and it's a half court, but it is in the same park.
Thank you. Any questions? Doris, you have a question? Oh, okay. Any questions, council? Moving along, Erin?
Okay, Ali, that's all I have. So with that being said, I will turn it over to you to cover any important items from the monthly status report that we didn't already discuss or cover.
Okay. So the first item, which we did kind of already discuss, which is Rosemont Park. Essentially, the basketball half court has been finished. They're currently working on the playground construction. We could see them finished actually with the project as early as next week, but that really depends on their own scheduling. But they have installed the pads, the concrete foundations, and they're working on the flooring. At this point, there isn't much left. They could be potentially done as early as next week. So that's Rosemont Park, and there's two separate contractors, one doing the plain underground equipment. IDA is specifically only doing the basketball court, as the project was set up this way by Donna. That was awarded through state contract, so that's just how it worked out. The next item is the high school memorial tennis courts. The striping was being worked on today. I think at this point, and anyone can, actually, I encourage anyone to chime in if there are any issues, but I think the project is essentially done and in acceptance with everyone, unless somebody wants to say anything.
Different order.
What happened to number 1 and 2? He missed those.
There's no change since the last report, so he's only going over the items that have had changes or updates.
That's fantastic. About the tennis court, please?
No, it's good. It's good for
It's good for the meeting. Can I just say, the tennis court,
Yes,
I
please.
passed by it, it looks fantastic, but there's some fencing that's still not done.
He can't hear you.
Yeah, you have to talk.
So the mayor and I were there today. It looks amazing. The fence is rolled back because they're still finishing the job. Once they're done, they'll reconnect
So
the fence.
that's,
Yep.
that's the last piece, yeah, it looks fantastic, thank you.
And just as a comment, I'm hopeful that we could do a ribbon cutting maybe the second week of October, get the Board of Education, get us down there, as a joint project. Why not?
Why not?
Is that something you want me to try to set up for the second week of October?
Yeah.
Okay. I'll work with the chief on it.
Please. Thank you, Mary.
I'll be away, the days I'm away,
Yes, I
right?
do.
Well, let me say this about the tennis court. I want to commend the council. I want to commend the Board of Education, our administrator, our DPW director, Scott Cars, worked very hard, and we stayed together. We didn't buckle under to accept an inferior product. And lo and behold, you saw today yourself, our administrator and I saw today ourselves. It was a beautiful sight. I only wish I could still play tennis, because I'd go and play right now myself. Anyone else want to comment on that?
You can't play tennis, you're too old.
I got one set left in me. Anyone else care to comment on that? No? And good job, Ollie, too, hanging in there on that.
Thank you. All right, so moving on to the next item, which is improvements to Mobile Boulevard Phase 3. We've been coordinating with the contractor between me and Victor Scott as far as traffic coordination, and we're hoping for commencement soon, but we're still just having coordination. This is the project where they cannot complete paving because of PSC&G work, which will not be finished until likely next year, but they can do concrete work. And I mean, so far we've all come to agreement and acceptance to take the project basically complete it as we can. for the improvements to Mole Boulevard Phase 4. That is the project where we passed the resolution for rescope. You guys do have the package of the resolution as far as, the approval which is necessary to submit the DOT. Unfortunately, I haven't been able to pick it up yet because of circumstances where I was exposed to somebody who has, currently has COVID. By the end of this week, 2-week quarantine period will be over, in which case, even some of you just leave it in the hallway, I'll just grab it and go. But in which case, we'll be able to submit that. Our paperwork is largely ready. We just need that to add to the package.
Ali, just let me know when you're on the way, just so I can coordinate with either myself or someone from your office to make sure that it's in the hallway for you to grab. Okay.
Yep, I might send somebody else in that place. In regards to the next, which is the Veterans Memorial at Van Riper and Mole Boulevard, we did conduct investigations. To what we found, 2 aspects. One, the property was not included by deed on either lot 1 or 2, which we previously suspected could potentially have ownership of that property. Naturally, this doesn't exclude another property from that section being included in another property, but we have no reason to believe that any other property would own it. And what's more important, we have determined that that section of park is within the municipal right-of-way. Perhaps this is a question that the borough attorney may want to review, but as far as we know, we still have, in which case, not only do we have reason to believe that nobody owns the property, but it's certainly in the right-of-way, in which case, one way or another, we really should be able to put whatever we need there. But like I said, the adjoining property does not own it. And we believe that that corner was simply installed as a traffic guide so that people weren't just making quick left or right turns onto Mola Boulevard. It was there basically to force them to come to a perpendicular angle to the street exactly, which is a safety precaution, in which case they can't just make a quick turn. They have to come, they have to stop, and they have to look both ways. And we believe it was always part of the road or the right-of-way, and which is why nobody owns it.
Ali, have you been able to determine what type of right-of-way it is that we're talking about?
What type of right-of-way?
Yes. By that, I mean, is it a street right-of-way? Is there a pipe under the ground that? You haven't been able to?
We haven't been able to completely confirm why that is just a random section of right-of-way. We don't know when it got constructed that way. We started looking into it, but we haven't found the project where that was constructed. All we know at this point it is in the right-of-way. We don't know if it was always like that or if it was previously a part of the street, for sure.
So what would be our next move in order to determine that? I guess from a legal end, Sal.
Yeah, maybe Sal can weigh in. I don't think we necessarily do need to determine that, but if you did want to determine that, we'd have to start looking through our records and the town's records to determine if any project was involving that street corner and made that adjustment.
Okay, so let's do a legal.
If I may, Mayor, in response to your question, if we could determine what the address is and if there's a lot block issue involved, what we could do is actually search back in title and see if there was a title change or some sort of title transfer for that piece of property and see what comes up.
There's no address, it's just a triangle.
It's just a triangular piece. So we can get a triangulation from the tax assessor or the tax collector, and if we could designate it, then we can see, we can get a search done on it to see what title it has or not.
I was just wondering if it was a proposed street there at one time.
It could be potential an abandoned piece or a part of a prior parcel of some sort.
Right. So
if that's the case, then we can actually then move to see if there is nothing, then if we can get a triangulation and a description, then we can move to have it given to the court by a title.
What do they call that?
With the Chancery Division.
Okay, so that's a bit of good news on that front, Ali.
So, moving on past that, the next project is the 2019 road program, which we already essentially discussed. It's really just the project is over. It's just some punch list items, and there's really not much more to add there. Tuella Avenue, they have completed the water main section of the work. They have been removing trees in regards to doing curb work, and they're getting ready to do concrete work. Naturally, they do have different crews for concrete work with water main. So the delay obviously comes from switching crews out there. But we're as soon as the tree work obviously has already been taking place, we're hoping that once they're completed with their stumps are still there, and one more tree still needs to be taken down. Once those are removed, then they can proceed with the concrete work.
Question.
So one project which is
Hold up, Ali.
municipal marina.
Ali, we got a question. Hold up.
This was in regard to Tuella, correct?
Yes.
Can you guarantee that this project will be done and paved this year?
I want to say that the timing gives plenty of time to do it this year, but I definitely am, forgive me for my, forwardness, but I really do not want to, or I don't feel comfortable guaranteeing anything from Garcia, because they've burned me enough times where I wouldn't take that chance. They have enough time to complete it, but like I said, there are some contractors that I wouldn't guarantee, and they're one of them. They do good work, but timing is not their strong suit.
And this is not a comment at you or your firm, but this was awarded in, I don't know, like September of 2019.
This was awarded from, at the very least, the project was commenced and I think potentially awarded from last year.
Correct.
We have always been in contact with Garcia and acknowledging this. It's been a strange year where you can't quite penalize contractors for lateness due to the virus. They did have, coordination where they said that they had a few, people who caught the virus, and actually one person within the company's wife died from the virus, and they use that as basically their reasoning why things have taken so long.
Ali, what does the contract say?
I can't quite hear.
Does the contract have a finish date?
The contract finish date has long been passed if there is one. There is one, but it's already definitely been it's been pushed back when the notice to proceed. The notice to proceed was given them at the pre-construction meeting. They didn't want to sign it, but the notice to proceed comes into effect upon receiving it, not when they sign it. Hardly 10 days after. So that started last year. Actually, we didn't expect them to actually, we gave them the courtesy to not necessarily start last year because it was close to the end of the year and they said that they wouldn't necessarily be able to. But that their start date puts them within the span of COVID, and this is why there's some legal implications. There are also been change orders which do play a factor, such as trees. I don't know if the change order can justify the delay, but like I said, it's a very strange time legally. You can or can't penalize the contractor because there were so many ambiguities out there that even construction for a lot of projects was technically not allowed for period, especially in Bergen County.
Okay. So basically what we're saying here, to answer Daniel's question, it doesn't look like it's going to get done this year, Daniel.
Well, that's not what he's saying.
I didn't say it doesn't look like it's going to get done.
Ali,
that
what's left? What's left? Curbs and paving?
On this contractor.
What's left? Curbs and paving?
Ali, Councilman Golubek wants to know what's left, curbs and paving?
Oh, yes, curbs and paving. And sidewalk, obviously, ADA,
Yeah, so please,
ADA ramp,
unless
curbs,
someone,
aprons.
November
so
15th, not after that.
unless someone disagrees with me on the council, can you please tell the contractor that the mayor and council thinks it's unacceptable if this isn't completed by the winter when it's no longer feasible to do this work?
And also, if I may add, we don't want him paving after November 15th.
Correct. I also agree.
Actually, you don't want to pave after that.
I'm good.
It's at least the county's standard, which usually it's a good idea to follow. It depends on weather. If it's 70 degrees, that obviously it doesn't come into effect. But
Yeah, but you could be getting ice, and those evenings, ice up, and if they're ready to pave, ice does not mix with pavement.
Absolutely.
So we'll stay away from that. November 15th is a good date. Yeah, maybe November 17th or 18th.
All right.
Because we're having a mild spell, yes, but I would not recommend it after that. Any more questions on this item? No? We're good? We're good? All right. We're good? Move along.
All right, moving on to the marina. It says no change, but there has been, which is really, I mean, it's not necessarily something. We've been starting to coordinate with the county in regards to what we can do at the marina. Naturally, it is bordering County Road. The intention is to stay out of the county right of way, so they have limited quorums, or limited issues with our project. But on that note, they still do want us to coordinate with them, and their main concern at this point is what we're doing with the guide rail, whether or not we can remove it. If we do want to put balls, which was obviously an aesthetic decision to improve the look of the marina. How we would discourage residents from crossing the street where they shouldn't be, because obviously the road can be quite busy. But anyway, that coordination has already started to take place.
Mike, you have any comments on that? Mike, you have any comments? Well, just what he said. Well, I just thought you might wanted to comment on what he just.
Yeah, I mean, once we get to that phase, I'll have the traffic division do a study in conjunction with the Bergen County Traffic Division to see if what's the best options there. I mean, we're not nowhere near that at this point.
Okay, Ali, continue, please, sir.
The next two projects, the 2019 CDBG and the 2020 NJDOT Municipal Aid Grant, for the first being Donor and Echo, and the latter being Gilbert Avenue. Both of those are in the process of scheduling a pre-construction.
Ali, for the 2019 CDBG pre-con, right now I heard back from the contractor, they're good for next Wednesday. I have not yet heard back from Laura Salandra. I'll follow up with her again tomorrow. But do you need me to coordinate the NJDOT one for Gilbert, or you're already doing that?
No, I mean, we'll take care of the NJDOT Gilbert Avenue pre-construction meeting.
Okay, yeah, because I'm sure they could probably be held on the same day, but we need Laura as a grant requirement to be in attendance for the CDBG one.
Absolutely. The NJDOT one, I don't believe them being present in the requirement. Obviously, we will try to coordinate, but that one may be able to take place without them. I mean, half the time they don't show up anyway, so. But yeah, so those are those two projects. The next project is the borough-wide drainage improvements. We have already started taking our locations and coming up with more refined plans about what is feasible as far as elevations or swales or just connecting pipe. Obviously, the numbers before were what we expect, without incurring any cost to the town, but what we were expecting things to cost based on our limited observations, since we know that we're proceeding with basically all of them except for the two that got solved. We're refining our search to figure out exactly what is for sure feasible. The next project is the NJDEP Stormwater Pollution Prevention Plan, Stormwater Management Plan. We actually have been coordinating with the DEP. There actually are new requirements, and this is not just for Elmwood Park, this is for every single town. You may have already received this email. I don't know if the administrator, if the chief, or if Aaron have received these, but the DEP is expecting more updates on these, and for that reason, we're starting to coordinate with them to figure out what changes and updates are required. And the last thing of relevance, obviously, PSCNG, which we have talked in detail. I would definitely encourage, if anybody ever gets updates from PSCNG, to definitely let me know. They don't really do a great job of letting me know what stuff they're going to be doing. And if I even figure out from them to start with, usually it's at the very last minute, or I hear what's going on from them from a third party, they don't let me know. So definitely And Aaron did actually let me know, so I appreciate that.
Got it.
Anytime someone hears from PCG, that would be helpful because I don't know if they just don't like me, but they don't like to coordinate with me.
No problem,
And
Ollie.
that pretty much covers it.
Is that it, Ali?
Yep, that's all the items on the agenda, at least on my engineering report.
Any questions from the council before we excuse Ali? Doris said touche, right?
No, I said be safe.
Oh, be safe, okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ali. I'll keep you posted on the pre-con meeting for next week.
Thank you so much.
All right, have a good one. Okay, moving on, Mayor. Next on our agenda, we have correspondence. Under 4A, it's a notice of public hearing from Passaic Valley Sewerage Commission, which is to be held on November 12th at 12 noon, and it's in regard to them amending a supplemental resolution. And being that we contract with them, they're required to send us notice.
Okay.
Okay, if there's no questions, moving on to resolutions. 5A, there are 2 requests to purchase equipment through the DPW. This was accounted for in the capital improvement bond. That was just on the agenda at the September meeting. So these will be resolutions authorizing the payment of the actual equipment.
We good on this, council? Moving along.
Moving along, 5B, because when dealing with Rosemont Park, because it's a grant, Finance is asking that we have a resolution authorizing the payment for the equipment installed at Rosemont Park with MRC. We did approve the purchase, but they want a resolution stating that the payment can be released, just to be safe.
Council, we good with that?
Just a quick question for the chief. Where are we with this? Is the new playground in?
Everything's in, for the most part. The surface, the safety surface is scheduled to go in either tomorrow or early next week, and that's the last phase.
And the fence is there? Or
What fence?
new fence, right? There was a new fence or no?
I don't think it's up yet because
Okay.
we're waiting till this.
Part of the initial plan was 4 decorative light poles to be around the park. So if that hasn't come up yet, that's something that would round out the project, because that's something we discussed way at the beginning.
Was that factored into this budget? So there should be money for it?
Yeah, it was accounted for in the original cost estimate, but that's a separate purchase through PSG or whatever. But
Okay.
if you go back to the initial documents, there was light poles around it, so I'm just bringing it to your attention.
All right, I'll talk to the recreation director tomorrow and we'll figure out how to get that ball rolling on that.
Thank you.
Moving along, any more questions on this item? Moving along.
Okay, moving along to 5C. We have a recommendation from our DPW superintendent to enter in the North Jersey wastewater cooperative pricing system.
Can you elaborate on that for us, Erin? Or
Basically, it's for purchasing purposes, it would get the borough better cost estimates for different various things as laid out in front of you, janitorial supplies, pipe fittings, valves, and accessories. So it would be like a co-op membership like we have with other companies exactly as well.
So it's different communities bonding together to purchase in quantity to get a lower price.
Exactly. You said it better than I did.
Well, if you didn't say it, I wouldn't have been able to say what I said.
All right, is everyone in favor of doing so? Again, it was at the recommendation from our DPW superintendent. Okay, 5D are 2 additional used car dealership applications. I believe we did 2 at a previous meeting, so these 2 have now paid their fees and we could approve their license. Any questions? Okay, 5E is a dedication by rider request. A dedication by rider is used to establish an account that wasn't accounted for when you adopted your budget. So this one is in regards to is it Van Riper Avenue, the Veterans Memorial Park that we were just discussing. Because we're soliciting and getting donations for that park, we need to do a dedication by rider request to the Director of the Division of Local Government Services so that we could insert this in our budget line item.
Any questions on that, council?
The same would be done, say if we were to get a grant, et cetera, that we weren't anticipating. Okay, and 5F is a resolution that was sent to us that was adopted by Beach Haven, and what they are asking is that other municipalities support this resolution as well. Basically, it has to do with rural areas in New Jersey that don't have access to aerial line high-speed internet services. And what the resolution would do is to encourage internet providers to provide this service to rural areas. Basically, what they mention is they're at a bit of a disadvantage in times like COVID-19. It affects, the running of their government, their schools, et cetera. So this was sent to all municipalities in New Jersey, all 565, and they're asking that other municipalities adopt the same.
Any questions, council? Once again, moving along.
Okay, that's all I have tonight, Mayor.
Okay, we thank you for that. Committee reports, I'll start off with Mr. Fasolo.
I wasn't expecting to go first. I just want to thank everybody for supporting me and my family this past week. I lost my grandfather. I just wanted to say thank you to all of you and all the residents that reached out to me over social media. And other than that, progress.
Thank you, Mr. Fasolo, and that's a sad moment when we lose an elder like that, and we can empathize with what you and your family's going through.
Thank you.
Mr. Goloback?
Progress.
Thank you for that. Mrs. Ingui? Mrs. Pellegrin?
Yes, sorry, I have a couple things tonight. I'll be quick. On September 17th, the Elmwood Park Board of Health gave out free flu shots to our Elmwood Park residents. In total, 78 residents received their flu shots at no cost. A big thank you to the Board of Health for keeping our community safer. Their next meeting will be on Monday, October 19th. On the police front, October 30th, the Elmwood Park Police Department will be hosting their second Halloween trunk or treat from 5 p.m. to 8 p.m., location 300 Market Street, Elmwood Park, in St. Leo's parking lot. Face masks are required. Social distancing will be enforced. For more information, please contact Detective Randy Garillo at 201-796-0700, extension 118. A big thank you to our police department for hosting this night of fun and keeping everyone safe. Okay, so I have some good news now, some really good news.
Give it to us. We want it.
Yes.
Give it to us.
So the Residents Assistance Program is proud to announce that Mr. Larry Insera Jr., owner of Insera ShopRite Supermarkets, is donating ShopRite gift cards to our program to help our residents in need. The Insera family-owned ShopRite will be coming to our community in the near future. Their generous donation of 120 food cards will help feed so many families in need this holiday season. I'm going to say that again, 120 food cards. I personally think this is a wonderful and very generous gesture for this family to want to help our community. We all look forward to working together and building a great relationship with the Insera family. For more information on our Residents Assistance Program, please call our RAP coordinators, Angela Fava, at 201-796-1457, extension 106, or Dion York at 201-796-1457, extension 211. And on the Insera family, I am just so taken back on their generosity. They're giving the 120 gift cards at $50 a gift card, which equals, they donated $6,000 to this program without even breaking ground in our community. So this is the kind of family that's going to come in, and I know they're going to be very generous with our community. We're going to invite him in one day in a couple of weeks with the chief and yourself, Mayor, and the RAP committee, and we want to personally thank him. But I am just blown away. It was just a letter sent out like every other letter is sent out, and they contacted us, and we're so very, very grateful to the Insera family. I thank them so much.
That's saying a
Progress.
lot, and we're thankful that you're spearheading this program and doing a good job with that. Mrs. Wetchler? She said ready. I don't know what that means. Ready or not?
I'd like to thank the fire department chief, the chief and assistant chief for coming out tonight and ensuring the vision for the fire department for 2020 and 2021. I'd like also to say thank you to the Insera family for all their help for Elmwood Park. They, it's a great honor that somebody would really care for our town and our residents the way they do. Next note. How we doing with the library with
I
that?
know that was coming.
With the permit? It cost us another $2,000 the other day. So now we're up to $6,000 for a permit that I think should have been done right from the beginning. It keeps on counting.
Yeah,
It's costing this library money when I think the architect, the contractor, and the building inspector should get together, sit down and say, this is what we want, this is how we have to have it, so this library can keep on going. You're talking 3 months already that nothing has been done at that building.
Chief?
I've been doing this 16 years already for this library.
This is of no fault of the building inspector or his department. They have been on top of this from the beginning. The fault lies with the contractor and the architect for the library.
No, Mike.
Their fault.
No, that's what I'm saying. Can I go get the architect, the contractor, and the building inspector together, have a meeting?
We've done that 3 times.
It's just a shame.
Doris, you asked for where's the problem, and this is what I'm deducing at this point.
I'm not
The
saying it's
architect
building
didn't, according to a conversation I had with him, he did not have this figured in to his initial proposal, which leaves me feeling very, very odd about that, because a architectural firm would know that in order for them to get permission on an item like this, they'd have to have shop drawings that would have to be supplied to the building department. So I'm starting to think that the more to blame goes towards the architect, and the builder obviously is just following the lead of the architect.
Right, I'm not blaming our building inspector. No, please don't misunderstand me. I'm not blaming him at all, because he needs to make sure that everything in this town's done the right way. I'm just saying, if I take the contractor, sit him down, take the architects, and have the building inspector come, maybe the 3 of them could sit there and do it, or something, because this is ridiculous. 3 months already, this town hasn't done anything with this library.
Doris, I understand your frustration.
Residents are getting upset
But
about
to answer what you're saying, it's been done.
And I don't know why,
Why?
architect and the
Because-
contractors are not doing it, what
This
Tony wants.
This is why. What happens is, by not having this up front, the pipe's in the ground before they got approval. That's a big mistake, all right? Now, the architect's saying, well, I want $2,000 more for this and to give you design drawings, which then they come back to the building department and are wrong. We chat with the architect, we chat with the building department and the contractor. Now, the contractor's kind of out of this right now, because he's sitting there with that pipe in the ground that's going to have to be changed when the final proper drawings are accepted by our building department. So every time that they're turned down on the approval of their plans, it goes back to the architect. He says, I need another $2,000. Then it goes to his engineer who's going to draw it. Hence, you got all this delay.
No, it just frustrates me.
It is.
that this is going on for so long, and our taxpayers are saying to us, the residents saying, what the hell is going on? They don't understand what's going on. If we pull up the pipes out of the ground, Mike, we pull up those pipes and start all over again with the pipes. Is the drawings that we have now would be right if they took all those pipes out and put them down the right way? Would that be better off?
No, here's what happened. What's ever inferior that is sitting there has to be corrected. Thrust blocks on the corners, as I was chatting with the building inspector. So the whole point at this point is to do what you said we did. We brought our building department, our fire department, speaking directly with the architect, so now that the architect knows what the building department's looking for. What we don't want to happen is that pipe be put in the ground without the proper approvals. It'd be egg on all our faces. So at this point, it's frustrating because of the time element, but in the long run, we're going to be happy just the way we were with the tennis court.
My point is, if we pull up the pipes and start all over, give you a new plan, would it be better?
Well, I don't know. That question is very odd to me. That question is very odd to me because if the pipe is correct, the nature of the pipe, the right pipe, and the process of covering the pipe is correct, which would entail the pipe in the ground properly, thrust blocks in a proper... A thrust block is where it makes a turn. And when water makes a turn rushing through a pipe, there's movement. And at a 90-degree angle, that junction wants a push. So there's a thrust block that is set properly behind that corner in the ground. There's none of them there sitting there right now, and there's a couple other small things that have to be corrected. However, the contractor has to correct them according to what the architect has designed. Then there's the backfilling of the trench, which I'm concerned about, because if that's not compacted to maximum density, at that point, and they pave, next spring, we'll be looking at a trough in the parking lot. So we got a lot of things, we're on top of it. If we're looking to point fingers at this point, I don't think it does us any good. I think we got to get this damn thing done.
I'm not pointing fingers at anybody. Sorry. I'm not pointing fingers at anybody. I'm just saying, if we have to take three men that are stubborn and put them together and say, this is what we need and this is what should be done, and have it done once and for all. $6,000 is a lot of money for residents of this town to spend when we put $6,000 into the library that we need. New furniture, new books, and everything else. This seems to me like, the architect is not complying with what the building inspector says. And it's just costing the library more money and more money and more money, and it's wrong.
Who hired the architect?
That architect was there from 20 years ago.
Right, well,
So you want to call up the people that did it, hired them, and use them? No,
what
you
I'm
can't
saying-
do that.
What I'm saying is that that maybe that wasn't the proper architect to hire, because in the tail
They've
end of the
used them
project,
before.
in the tail end of the project, we wouldn't have these problems. Right now, what we need to do is just relax a little more, and I think it's just going to find its own way, the right way, though.
We've been relaxed for 3 months. We're not going to relax anymore because you're not going to be able to close the hole because it's going to get winter time and you're not going to have it, and then the library's not going to be able to be open.
Doris, you're preaching to the choir right now.
Well, the choir's not listening.
All right. Thank you. Mrs. Ballesteri?
The only thing, I drove by the tennis courts. It's wonderful to see how they look, and as well as the park to Rosemont, that it's almost at completion. So it's just to see the progress, it's really gratifying.
Someday we'll be able to go by to the library and say the same thing.
That's true.
Hopefully
That's true.
sooner than later, though.
That's all, Mayor, progress.
Thank you. Okay, I think I did enough talking this evening, especially on the report on the tennis court. So I'm going to move the meeting along. And how about, Erin, we ask the public if they'd like to speak and open it up to them?
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Can I
May
have
I-
a motion?
Yes, sure. You can,
Okay,
and I agree with her about the motion, so.
yeah. All right.
All in favor?
To mute conference participants, all participants are
It was a
unmuted.
little late.
At this time, if anyone from the public would like to speak, please state your name and address for the record. If you are not speaking, please ensure that your line is muted.
Is anyone from the public here to speak?
Jeffrey Freitag, 35 Drive. Two things. The library, I heard Councilperson Wexler speak about that. As I recall, the hiring of the architect, isn't the person an architect, library architect?
Doris, you want to answer that? Hold on, Jeff, we got Doris.
Yes, Jeff, it was. Jeff, you sat at meetings with us when we hired the architect about 15, 16 years ago.
Mr. Freitag, Councilwoman Wetchler's answer was yes.
Okay, so as far as a person not knowing what to do, there's got to be some culpability on somebody's part. I mean, you could just go back and forth with this all the way. And I believe the council person said that get the three of them together, and this is taking a long time. And I mean, I know also one of the individuals that lives on Orchard Street mentioned about the dumpster. I don't know if they're going to be able to put anything more in there. It's sitting there. It's not moving. The only thing they use that parking lot for now is, I guess, to the workers to come to work. They don't work there. They come, park their car, take the truck. They don't work. They're not working in there.
Jeff, as
So,
far as
anyway,
getting the three,
And I don't know what's going on. If somebody's being overzealous or I don't know. It just seems that people can very easily, I mean, they're not building the George Washington Bridge here. And about burying a pipe and this and that, these are things that are conquered quite simply. Okay, I won't dwell on that because I'm sure you heard it already. On the side of Route 80, in particular on the, it would be the western side, rather on Linden Avenue, and around the corner from, I guess you used to call it Jerry's Tavern, whatever it is now. There's been a fence that's rolled up in the sidewalk. I see people walk out in the street to get around it. And I've seen people from the DPW, they just walk around it too, pick a few weeds. At least the fence can be. And I also thought that they were going to start, once the fall came, nothing. Is there anything going on with that, with the cleaning of the side of Route 80 and all the fence areas that are out missing? And there's actually a rolled-up piece of fence sitting on the sidewalk, and it would be on the southern side of Linden Avenue, right next to Route 80. That's just rolled up, sitting there in the sidewalk, and there is a sidewalk there. Is there anything going on with the cleaning of the side, of the rest of
Jeff, Mr. Foligno,
and all that?
Jeff, Mr. Foligno is going to address that for you.
Okay.
Mr. Freitag, the fence that's rolled up was hit by a drunk driver who jumped out of his car and ran. He was apprehended by police. The DOT was notified. They are apparently still in COVID mode because their response times are horrendous. Additionally, the entire fence will be replaced. However, the tree crews have to come back in and do some more remediation, so they don't want to replace the fence until the tree crew comes back. We've called them numerous times. They told us they'll get back there as soon as they put the crews back in service. We're patiently waiting. It's technically, just the beginning of the fall. They told us by the end of this fall. We will continue to stay on top of it.
What's going to happen with the fence that's on the sidewalk? I didn't understand. I didn't hear that.
The DOT was notified. It's their fence. It's their responsibility. We will follow up with them.
It's a DOT, right? I don't wanna step on
DOT,
anybody's toes.
Department of Transportation, yes.
It looks like hell, and I do see people have to walk around the street and do it. You mind if I call them?
I have no problem with you calling them.
Okay. Let's see. Nothing else, progress, thank you. I'm not doing progress, you're doing progress, so, thank you.
Mr. Freitag, are you done?
Yeah.
Okay, moving along. Is there anyone else out there that cares to speak?
This is Dominic Scalzione, 120 East 54th Street, and
Welcome,
I
Dominic.
just want to thank you, Mayor. I just want to thank you, the council members, and the attorney and the chief for everything that you do for us. And I know it's a lot of long hours, and I just wanted to say thank you.
Thank you, Dominic. The whole council is saying thank you. I don't know if you can hear it.
I can. You're very welcome. Thank you, sir.
Thank you for taking the time out and delivering that message to us. Anyone else care to speak from the public? If no one else cares to speak, I will close the public portion.
To mute conference participants, press 1. All participants are muted, and they can unmute themselves.
Council, may I have a motion to stay another 3 hours and have discussion? No. May I have a motion to go into executive session? How's that sound?
Works for us.
Works? Second. All in favor?
Whereas the Open Public Meetings Act, PL 1975, Chapter 231, permits the exclusion of the public from a meeting in certain circumstances, and whereas this public body is of the opinion that such circumstances presently exist, and whereas the governing body wishes to discuss litigation, legal reports, minutes will be kept, and once a matter involving the confidentiality of the above no longer requires that confidentiality, then the meeting minutes can be made public. Now therefore be it resolved that the public be excluded from this meeting.